Have you ever wondered if it's possible to achieve high quality, professional looking automotive type finishes on your small parts or 3D prints utilizing just a budget friendly spray gun and a small portable compressor? We're going to find out. This is the Drizzle D1 by Intercraft. This is the gun I'm going to be using for testing today. This is not going to be a comprehensive review of the gun. I'm not going to go over the specifications and airflow. A lot of you probably don't even care about that. We just want to see how this gun works. I will show you how I set the gun up and how I used it. Also to note, I paid for this gun with my own money. I bought it online. I'll put a link down in the description if it is something maybe you are interested in. This is not a sponsored video. All the opinions are my own opinions, and I'll let you be the judge of how our project comes out. Now, one thing we are going to be doing today is something a little bit different, is we're going to be spraying it with my 10-year-old portable air compressor. It's a 6-gallon compressor, and we're really going to put this gun to the test and see if we can paint our small parts, our 3D printed parts, get a high quality professional finish using just that gun and a little portable compressor. So stick around, this should be pretty interesting. Before we get started spraying, there's a few things that we need to do and talk about. The first things we need to do is actually install the pressure regulator and the water trap, and these were supplied in the kit that I bought. You're also going to need an air fitting, and that air fitting is going to correspond to whatever type of air hose you're using. Now, it's really important to remember when you're installing these, make sure you're using a Teflon tape. We're going to be spraying with a very small compressor. It's only got a 6-gallon tank. And because of that, any air loss we have, if I have air bleeding out, it's going to result in loss of spraying time. So just make sure you're using that supplied tape. Now, a couple of the adjustments we're going to need to make on the gun. There's 3 knobs that you can control on the gun. First knob we're going to adjust is this very top knob. This is going to be for our fan control. Now, this is very important because it's going to control how far that fan spreads out. If it shoots real narrow or it's going to shoot a wide fan. And most paint guns will atomize much better the wider the fan is. So what I'm doing today is I'm just running that all the way out counterclockwise, and that'll give us a full fan. The next adjustment we're going to do is this adjustment right here. Now, this adjustments are fluid control, so that's going to allow how much paint could go from the cup and out the nozzle when we pull the trigger. It's going to allow how far that actual needle is going to pull back. What I did for this adjustment is pretty much ran it all the way in and backed it off 2.5 turns. The manual says 2 turns. I've read some posts online with people spraying clear, and people are going anywhere from 2 to 3 turns, so I figured let's try it right in the middle and we can always adjust that later. Last adjustment is this adjustment down here. This is our airflow, and all we're going to do is back that all the way out, and that's according to the manual and everything I've seen online. We're going to be controlling our air with our pressure regulator, and we'll talk about that right now. So we got our air line connected. There's no leaks. We're off to a great start. Last thing we need to do, we need to adjust this air regulator. Super simple process, only takes a couple seconds to do it. When I connected this air line, you can see that this pressure jumped way up here into the red. For those of you who are unfamiliar with these automotive style paint guns, don't worry about it. That's perfectly normal. We're going to adjust our regulator with air flowing through the gun. These guns have a 2-stage trigger on them. So as you pull the trigger back, you're going to feel some spring tension. As you continue to pull, it's going to open that air valve. If you pulled further back on the trigger, you'll feel a heavier spring tension, and that's actually pulling the needle off the seat, allowing the fluid to flow through. We don't need to pull it back all the way when we're adjusting this regulator, just enough to get air flowing through the gun. And I'm going to set this one just over 30 PSI, and we're going to give that a try. And that's it. There's one more thing I want to do before we get started, and you don't have to do this. It's entirely optional, but it's good information to have. We have to keep in mind we're going to be spraying with a little 6-gallon compressor, and because we're spraying with a small compressor, all of these automotive paint guns have a tendency to overwhelm the compressor if we just continually spray and spray and spray. So because of that, I want to see how long I'm going to be able to spray continuously before I have to stop and take a break and let that compressor charge back up. And how we're going to do that is I'm just going to open the gun up as if I was spraying it, and I'm going to watch that gauge. Now, if that gauge starts to fall, they call that falling off the regulator. And if it starts to fall off the regulator, we want to stop, because if the pressure changes while you're painting, it's going to change how that paint is atomizing. So we'll go ahead and do that now and see exactly how long we can get continuous before I got to stop and let that compressor charge up. And there it is, it started falling off the regulator. So after a quick 400 grit wet sand on that Trooper chest plate we worked on in my previous video, it's time to get some paint on it. So for the base coat, all I'm going to use is some of this Rust-Oleum Professional Flat White. Make sure you're putting it on nice and even, real light coats. You don't want any runs, and make sure you're covering all the spots. Naturally, it's time for our clear coat, so we'll go ahead and get that mixed up. The clear I'm using is a 4-to-1 clear. You look at the top of the columns, you can see where it says 4:1:1, and that's if you're using a reducer also. So what we're going to do is I'm going to mix it up 3 parts. That should give us roughly about 4 ounces of total product. So I'm going to put the clear in until it gets to the 3 in the first column, and then I'm going to fill it the rest of the way with the hardener until it gets to the 3 in the second column. And that's going to give us our 4-to-1 mixture that we're looking for. Now we're going to make sure we give that a real good mix, and always make sure you're using a paint strainer when you pour it into your paint cup. Now real quick before I spray, one thing I'm going to do, because I'm using a small compressor, is I'm going to pull the trigger back enough to engage that air valve, and we're not going to spray any fluid out of it, and I'm going to bleed the compressor down enough to let it cycle. Keep in mind we got 16 seconds, so that's with a full tank in the compressor, so we'll let it bleed down and cycle, and then we'll be ready to paint. Okay, so I don't know if you can hear it. I put the little compressor outside because it is real loud. It is currently kicked on, so as soon as it's done filling up, we'll be able to paint. Okay, so as you can see, there's the results. And, you know, I got to say, I think this came out real well. It's the first time I ever used a gun. Just pretty much went with the recommended settings online. Little bit of light orange peel, but I have absolutely no doubt as I play with this a little bit more and tweak the settings, we'll be able to get rid of that. Now, as far as the gun itself, the couple things I really like about it. One is it comes with these extra tips and nozzles, and that's important because if you want to spray heavier body materials like our high build primers, you're going to want to change out that 1.3 that we use for clear to like a 1.5 or even a 1.7 millimeter tip. I also like the fact that, you know, it has the pressure regulator in the kit. It seems like a decently built regulator, and also comes with a little water trap, and that's just a nice addition. Now let's take a minute and manage some expectations. The setup we used in the video works real well on stuff like small parts, 3D printed parts, but am I going to go out and paint my best friend's car using a budget-friendly spray gun with a 6-gallon compressor? Absolutely not. Or at least if I do, he's probably not going to be my best friend much longer. But for doing small parts, it does work very well. So I really hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you learned something. I know I did. If you did enjoy the video, please like and subscribe. I'll put links to the products I use if it's something you're interested in down in the description. And plan on doing some more videos coming up soon. So until then, just have fun.